Hey, I loved this challenge of figuring out how to take attendance without having service deliveries previously created using Salesforce, Google Sheets, Program Management Module, and Xappex. So I decided to take on the challenge and figure out how to do it. This might not be the most elegant way to do it, so I hope that other trailblazers who are watching this can give me feedback so that we can make this tool even better. But what I did was basically I figured out that the way a service schedule works is that it's always going to assign the same service participants to every subsequent service session. So I needed to figure out which service session we were on. And then I needed to figure out who were the people who we want to take attendance about. And that was kind of tricky because I couldn't quite figure out how these people got showed up here because it's like a ghost record because there's no actual connection between them yet. This is some sort of fancy coded lightning component, and I even tried to look at the code, but I couldn't quite figure it out. Anyway, I decided to play around with it as much as I could. And here is what I came up with. So this is a random service session that is part of a service schedule for STEM enrichment. So you can see there's a zillion sessions within it, and there's one that I just made that I scheduled for today. So some of these, like this one, um, don't have service deliveries created yet. If I take attendance in the screen and I hit submit, then we see a little success thing here, a success thing here, and then if I refresh the page, then we get to see the service deliveries loaded. So cool. How can we do that outside of the system? So the first thing I did was write a SOQL query that pulls in um, service deliveries scheduled at the time that I said I wanted mine to schedule for. You could do this a different way. You could pull it in by name. You could pull it in by sort of anything that you can search for here. I just thought that this was just like one thing that I thought of as I was working on this. And all it does is it brings over the unique Salesforce ID for that particular record. And it also brings back the name of the record, which in this case is ASDF. And it just hangs out here. This tab isn't really doing much for us, but we needed a way to be able to get this session ID so that we could later upload service deliveries. So then in this sheet, let's scroll over. Then I created a different query, also SOQL query, that pulls in all of the service participants. So that SOQL query was a little bit more complicated. So the fields that I need to pull in are the fields that I'm going to map to the service delivery. So I'm pulling in the contact or the client. This one is their ID, and this one is their name, because visually, as an attendance taker, I need to see the name of the person. The ID doesn't mean anything for me. This is the ID of the service schedule, the ID of the service itself, and the ID of the program participant between which record between the contact and a couple of different other lookup fields. And I'm grabbing these all from service participants. And I'm limiting this to just the program that I'm interested in. In this case, it's not even the program name, it's the service schedule name. So within the program, there's a couple of different service schedules. The service schedule that I'm interested in is STEM enrichment. I know that every week or every day or every period of time that I have my STEM enrichment program, I want to take attendance on basically the same people. So this is pulling in all the STEM enrichment people. And what we need to figure out is did they come to the session I'm taking attendance for? So I will pull in the data. I hid a bunch of fields that are just IDs because I'll unhide them here because I don't want my attendance takers to get confused. So I can actually hide, hide this, don't need this. And then this, I thought this was cool. I don't know, you tell me. But basically, I said if there's attendance present, then pull in the special session ID over here. So if there's anything populated here, present, absent, whatever, otherwise put nothing. So the formula still exists here, but there's no data. If I put something here, then it'll just populate this with the ID. So this was just a way to make sure that every row, which is going to become very shortly, every row is going to become a service delivery, and every service delivery has to be connected to a service session. How do we know what service session we want to connect to? We pulled it in here by doing a query based on the date of taking attendance. So now that we pulled in data from Salesforce records, right? We pulled in basically service participant records. Now we want to push service delivery records with attendance data that was just manually entered in this spreadsheet. So I built a template in here for inserting rows. In the last video I made, I did an update, but in this video, we're going to do an insert. So I saved this template called Insert Service Deliveries. For the operation, I selected Insert, and I selected Service Delivery for the object. And then I mapped my fields. And while I was doing this, I visually checked, what fields need to be filled out on a service delivery. So I made sure that I had client service, service session, program engagement. I made sure that I had all of those IDs available so that I could populate all of those lookups. So I'm 100% telling you the truth. Let's refresh the page here. So there's no service deliveries yet, and I haven't taken attendance in the system. I am now going to, oh man, I always forget to do this. I gotta unhide this. Unhide. So we're gonna select our columns because this is the data that we want to push. So now that this is selected, I can go over here and I can do my insert. I'm going to open up my template, which is pre-mapped and saved in here. And I'm just going to push my selected rows, and I want to push all 5 of them. This is going to run. We got a success statement, but I don't believe it until I see it. So let's go ahead and refresh the page here. And what you can see is that we see up here that these were created, and we see down here that we now have new service delivery records. Really exciting. So I didn't map hours in, but of course you could. And I just think this is kind of cool. It's a kind of cool prototype. I think it could be better. But I also just wanted to solve a very specific, very specific and very cool problem. So if you want to set this up, I would be totally overjoyed and also happy to help. If anybody else here finds this compelling, we should totally collaborate on it. And I think that's all I have for you today. So it's it's late in my time zone. I'm going to sign off for the night. So happy to be figuring this out together. Let's see what else awesome stuff we can do. Bye.